It was a great merriment for South Sudanese in 2011 when they gained independence from the Republic of Sudan. Ensuing this, many anticipated peace to prevail and development to be witnessed in the region. However, the new country faced a challenge as civil war broke out due to ethnic violence and clashes among warring groups. This conflict displaced several people and undermined initiation to development. In 2015, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development (IGAD) successfully mediated armed groups in South Sudan to ink a ceasefire agreement. Yet armed groups violated the agreement and conflict continued. Recently, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development (IGAD) held high-level revitalization forum for the implementation of resolutions of the conflict in South Sudan. The forum took place in the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa. In opening the event, Chairperson of IGAD Council of Ministers, the Ethiopian Foreign Minister Worqina Gabayo, has called on South Sudanese political leaders to show resolute determination to peace. Worqina underlined the necessity to genuine political will for peace to prevail in South Sudan.
No breakthrough in a peace process appears merely as a result of wishful thinking or of a chance. It requires for more determination, primarily the commitment of South Sudanese political leaders. They need to have a clear vision, genuine political will, and a desire to heal the agonies and the suffering of the people of South Sudan. Only this can bring about a new chapter of hope, unity, and prosperity, and this in turn depends on the real commitment by the parties to explore and consider all responsible and positive proposals to restore and reinforce effective implementation of the agreement to resolve the conflict in South Sudan.
Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission GMEC Chairperson Faisal Muhaye demanded IGAD leaders to consider holding spoilers of the peace process accountable.
Of particular note, we must address the violations of the permanent ceasefire, lack of accountability for spoilers and violators, slippage in the implementation timelines, a lack of dedicated funding for the implementation of the peace process, and the need for inclusive governance arrangements.
The forum was dubbed a unique and critical opportunity to make progress towards peace in South Sudan in the face of weakening humanitarian, economic, and human rights situations in the country. Officially launching the forum, Chairperson of IGAD, Hailemariam Desalegn, who is Ethiopian Prime Minister, strongly urged the warring parties to prioritize innocent civilians to conflicting personal interests. Hailemariam stressed the urgent need for a speedy restoration of peace in the relatively infant East African country.
My South Sudanese brothers and sisters, you must now take some difficult decisions on the basis of compromise and of give and take. You owe this to your people. Put your people first and your country, not selfish desire. You need to give your people the sustainable peace and the stability they so desperately need.
Hailemariam also called on the South Sudanese delegation to take the lion's share for the fruition of the revitalization forum.
It is now clear to us all indeed to the whole world, that more than half of the people of South Sudan are either refugees in neighboring countries, internally displaced within South Sudan, or suffering from food insecurity in their own village. It is equally clear that all these sufferings are taking place because you, the leaders of South Sudan, have repeatedly failed to talk to each other, to negotiate, to be tolerant, to make compromises.
Back to Foreign Minister Workana Gabayo, he has also warned against potential degenerating conditions in the country, calling on the leaders there to be aware of this.
I request all parties to show real political will and commitment to peace for their sake of your own people with no hesitation. Particularly, you, the leaders of South Sudan, have the sole responsibility for saving your nation from sinking into further chaos. Time is long overdue for all of you to take up responsibility and act.
Still determined to see peace and stability in South Sudan, IGAD has mediated a ceasefire deal between the warring parties in the anticipation of relieving civilians who long for the calm of their nation. After a week-long discussion, the rivals have signed a ceasefire agreement. Chairperson of IGAD Council of Ministers, Workana Gabayo, seized the moment and told actors that the deal should be the beginning of ending tragedy in South Sudan.
We are conveying a message that offers the beginning of an end to political conflict in South Sudan, the beginning of the end of mistrust in South Sudan, the beginning of the end of hatred in South Sudan, the beginning of the end of all evil things in South Sudan.
Commending the extensive effort of IGAD, African Union Commission Chairperson urges to go forth to practical implementation.
We're satisfied of the fruitful outcome of your deliberations, noted by the signing of an agreement, the cessation of hostility, the protection of civilians, and humanitarian access. I wish, therefore, to congratulate you on having skilled this potentially decisive phase. In signing this agreement, you are going to put an end to a tragedy that South Sudan is experiencing. This is the first phase, encouraging first phase.
Exclusively talking to EBC, spokesperson of Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the agreement is instrumental to cease clashes, provide much-needed humanitarian assistance, and thereby protect civilians.
The agreement focused on three major issues. The first is about silencing guns, meaning it's about halting military operations and hostility among and between parties. The second is about protection of civilians. As you know, the prime targets and victims of the South Sudan conflicts are men, women, children, girls, and the elderly. So the agreement calls for the protections of civilian sites and refuge camps. Last but not least, the agreement calls for all parties to ensure that South Sudanese have unimpeded access for humanitarian assistance.
The spokesperson went on saying that the deal would help all walks of life in South Sudan enjoy peace and development.
No matter what the dichotomy and the classifications of parties to the agreement, this deal is very important to all South Sudanese. As you have heard in the opening sessions, everybody was calling for peace and stability in the country. This civil war has really affected the youngest nation in Africa, South Sudan. Even though the country is endowed with rich natural resources and has huge potentials, it has not been able to use its resources to the better life of its nationalities. So no matter what, whether you are a political leader, an armed group, member of the civic society, men or women, it has really affected every walks of life in South Sudan. So it is in the best interest of the country and South Sudanese to make the deal. We feel that they have come to a conclusion that a winner takes all will never bring a lasting solution to the conflict in the country. We feel that they have come to understand that there is no good war or bad peace. So you should give, and they should give peace a chance to make sure that the country is benefiting from the peace dividend. So in our view, South Sudanese of all sectors and of all walks of life have come to their sense and decide to benefit from peace.
Throughout the negotiation, Ethiopia has been an active player in bringing war factions to the table. According to Meles, Ethiopia's foreign policy encourages to working for the betterment of its neighboring countries.
As it is clearly stipulated in the Ethiopian Foreign and National Security Policy and Strategy, our neighbors are our priorities. Whatever stability you enjoy in Ethiopia, how strong you are economically as a nation, if your neighbors are at turmoil, peace, stability, and economic progress in Ethiopia will never be enough. So we leave no stone unturned to make sure that our neighbors are at peace with themselves, our neighbors are at peace with Ethiopia. So with the same paradigm, the government of Ethiopia have been a critical player in the pacification of South Sudan in tandem with other members of the IGAD bloc. Ethiopia has been working with members of the IGAD countries for the signing of the Addis Ababa Agreement of 2015. And the recent agreement, His Excellency Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn, as you said, as the current chair of IGAD, and His Excellency Dr. Warqineh Gebeyehu as chairman of the IGAD Minister of Councils, have been shuttling with every political actors of South Sudan in the region. They were trying and exerting every effort to make sure that all voices are heard, all actors are on board in the negotiation process. And we can say that Ethiopia has been an active player and a leading figure at the forefront in the signing and the whole process of the South Sudan Agreement.
He indicated sound governance, permanent ceasefire, and transitional security arrangement establishments are what IGAD planned to execute.
Incumbent upon South Sudanese to end hostility and give peace a chance. As it was clearly shown in the agreement, JMEC and CITISAM are mechanisms for the proper implementations of the agreement. Otherwise, the agreement also encompasses factors of accountability for those who breach the deal. We'll dwell on governance, signing permanent ceasefire, and transitional security arrangements.
The war in South Sudan that lasted for 4 years has displaced 1/3 of its people to flee the country and resulted in humanitarian crisis. As the ceasefire is in effect, continental and international organizations like the African Union and the United Nations have appreciated the move and expressed readiness to help the implementation of the ceasefire accord. Following the deal, South Sudanese and many more have put faith in the agreement and hope to see South Sudan enjoying peace, stability, and prosperity.